actually. I will just mute him on my side. And we leave the, you can, I guess you're watching the live stream, I hope, right? On Facebook or YouTube.
Well, I'm kind of worried that if I have Skype open and watch the live stream at the same time, I may break my internet
But then, yeah, you just, I will just mute you, actually, if I find a way. No, actually, can you mute yourself on your side? Because I can't, because, and then you just don't forget to switch it on once I, you know, look at you. I don't know. It's like. Welcome to this new show, Cinema5D Live. This is the first time we're doing this. We are live on YouTube and Facebook, hopefully, right now. This was something we have been wanting to do for a long time, and now finally there's a chance to do this. This is a pilot, so please excuse any problems, technical problems, or content problems, or, you know, me just stumbling over my word problems. Yeah, this is something we want to do on a regular basis. The plan with this show is to go through the news and reviews of the last few weeks and really change and talk about all the things we addressed over the last few weeks. Let's get started by talking about the GoPro Hero6 review that we posted about only today, actually. This video is very new on our site, and it was made by Gunther Machu, who is also with me here in the studio. And we will just get started by watching this video. Gunther actually took the Hero6 to a biking trip in Spain and made a very cool video with it. And after that, we'll talk to Gunther and what he thinks about the camera. Let's watch the video.
Wollt ihr nicht auch was frühstücken, ihr Lieben?
Ja, klar.
Mikros sind zu, wenn wir jetzt.
Ich weiß gar nicht, was das ist. Ah.
Raise their hands for me.
Wollt ihr nicht auch was frühstücken, ihr Lieben?
Ja, klar. Ich weiß gar nicht, was da... Ah.
Okay, sorry, we had some technical problems. This is the first time we're doing it, as I mentioned, so I'm sorry for that. The Facebook stream just interrupted, so I hope that a lot of people follow us on YouTube, which is working on our website, so I'm happy about that. So, but now with me here in the studio, we have Gunther Machu, who made the review. So Gunther, you took the Hero 6, you also reviewed the Hero 5 for us before that, so you're kind of the expert for the GoPros. What's your opinion about this camera? Because I mean, when it came out, honestly spoken, a lot of us were disappointed because it looks very similar to the old one. There is not so much new about it. Do you think it's worth the upgrade, or how was it for you?
Yeah, basically, actually, it was a very nice experience using this camera. I've been using GoPros since the Model 2 came out, and then I used the 2, 3, 4, 5, and now the 6 model. And also for me, the question was, of course, is this a valid upgrade or not? Because sometimes I was quite disappointed. For instance, going from the Hero 4 to the Hero 5, it was like I couldn't see any differences in the image. But of course, the form factor and this embedded touchscreen were nice. So I was asking the same question, like probably many people out there, is it worth the upgrade from the Hero 5? But I think I've used this cam now for about a month. And what I've found is actually, which is also posted on the cinema5D post, is that it has a vastly improved image quality. It's all the things we filmmakers like. On the one hand, you have this much better frame rate capabilities for slow motion. Like
what's the difference compared to the old one?
Yeah, for instance, the old one could only do 120 frames per second in full HD. And for instance, if you use the wide mode, it was full of aliasing, and you had to use the narrow mode. Now you can use the 240 frames per second mode in the wide mode, and that's a big improvement. Although it is not completely aliasing free, but it's, I think, very usable on
in HD,
outstate,
I guess, 1080.
in HD, 1080 for landscape shots. But what is also important is, I think, on an action cam you cannot control the exposure because you have no time to set the exposure every time. So you have to rely on a good automatic exposure function and also the white balance. And here I have to say that what GoPro claims in their marketing is that dynamic range improvement is really there. I've compared it side by side to the Hero 5, and it is definitely a big improvement. It holds the highlights much better. And this is great because if you're on the trail, if you're going through woods or something, and then you have these constant changes in exposure, it's handling it very well. And this is a big improvement, so it holds the highlights much better. Plus, also it has this new H265 encoder, the HEVC, the Advanced Video Encoding. And this is also a fantastic mode. It only uses it on some of the modes, unfortunately, only on some of the 4K and slow motion modes.
How is it to edit H265? I mean, it's very demanding,
actually, it's very demanding, but it is a mixed bag. In Premiere Pro, in the latest version, it works like a charm. I can even edit it on my laptop, 4K H264 files on my laptop. That's great.
H265.
265, sorry.
Yeah.
Thanks for the correction. I wanted to have it in Premiere as well. Sorry, in Resolve. But Resolve, the free version of Resolve cannot read it, at least on my Windows version not. At the moment, so I was not able to import the footage in Resolve. But I hope this will work.
Is the bitrate any better? Is it higher bitrate than it was in the 5? Yeah,
that's a good question also, because on the Hero 5 I did never use the 4K mode because it was just too much for the encoder.
Yeah, you found that the 2.7K is actually better than the 4K.
Exactly, was the best mode to use. Whereas on this cam, Hero 6, now you can fully trust the encoder if you use this new encoder, and 4K is very usable now.
There's a lot of shots in your video where you actually mounted it on your chest, which are quite amazing because you see the bike like moving like crazy, and the camera is absolutely stable. Is this the gimbal that you use, the Karma grip, or is it the built-in stabilization or a combination?
This is a good question. Yeah, I did not use the internal stabilization. I only used the Karma grip, which is a gimbal, because the internal stabilization requires also that you use the old H264 encoder. You cannot use the new one for that. And for me, the internal stabilization is nice if you just use the camera like this, place it in your hands, or for some video logging. But I think for serious frame rates and also for the best quality out of this cam, you cannot use the image stabilization. And also another big point is that I'm using ND filters also. You can see the motion blur also in the images. And if you have
that's a good point, because you can't change the aperture on these cameras, which means you kind of always have to chase the correct shutter speed.
Typically in sun will be very high, and with good ND filters you can get down with the shutter speed, get motion blur. Yeah, that's great. But think of it, if you only have a software-based stabilization, then you get a blurred, shaky picture because of the motion blur, and then you're trying to stabilize a blurry picture, which is not good. So I would recommend only on sports scenes to use the Karma grip. This is a fantastic device.
It's a bit, I mean, it's a bit underestimated because the Karma drone was such a flop that nobody, I mean, you're the only person I know who actually uses the grip.
The grip,
What's the advantages of the grip?
No, actually the grip is very nice because it integrates the camera in a very nice way. It powers the camera, and you can also switch it on and off on the grip. Unfortunately, it's not without issues. Still, I'm using the latest firmware on it from August, but sometimes it will recognize the camera, sometimes not. And this is also bad because if it does not recognize the camera, you're fiddling around with removing batteries, and that's not nice in the field. So I hope finally GoPro will come up with a new firmware for that.
You said it powers the camera. How is the battery life without the grip, just with the internal camera?
That's very surprising. The battery life has improved as well.
Finally.
Finally. That's great. And with the grip, anyway, it's a no-brainer because if it's powered by the grip, you have like 2 or 3 hours of battery life, which is more than enough for a day.
Interesting. I mean, I know you didn't use this camera, but we use the Sony action cams for our car talk show on the go, and have been using it for the last 1.5 years. And this one has an optical stabilizer in it, which is extremely good. Of course, I mean, the form factor has downsides and you know, has advantages and disadvantages, I think, compared to the other one. But this camera is very, very, very nice. The only problem is you only have either 4K or HD mode. You don't have these in-between modes that you have here. Which is nice to have. But the stabilization in this camera is amazing. And I mean, the one thing that is still annoying with GoPros is that you don't have the normal 1/4 inch or 3/8 inch mounts. You always have to use adapters and stuff like that.
That's right, yeah, but you can use an adapter. That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you would say the GoPro Hero 6 is definitely worth the upgrade.
Absolutely, and I can only confirm it myself. I immediately, when I saw how good this is, I sold my old Hero 5 and upgraded to the 6. So.
Let's quickly talk also about how GoPro is doing. GoPro had a very difficult time. I mean, they are a public company, and they had, they were in a lot of trouble just before last year. I would say their stock has tumbled, and now they are, you know, on the upside again. Which is, you know, it's difficult to. They are a company that is relying on basically one product, more or less.
Yes.
And now they are getting better. What do you think? Do you think GoPro just, you know, is back on the horse, or do you think they will have a difficult time ahead?
It's an interesting thing because they came from action cams, and now focusing on what they do best on an action cam, I think they're back on the horse with the Hero 6, definitely. And I hope they make some further improvements of this camera, because I think the quality now is reaching into pro territory.
Yeah.
And if they add certain things like improved audio, or audio you can use in conjunction with the camera grip, or things like other lenses, because the fisheye look of this is quite annoying. If they would use a rectilinear wide-angle lens or something, you could use this for pro productions, in my opinion.
I mean, they're kind of, GoPro is kind of the Red Bull of cameras, right?
Yeah.
In terms of a lot of it is marketing, and they're very successful with action sports, and everybody knows them. But that's the thing, you know, when you talk about action cams, you talk about GoPros. But on the other hand, you have so many other manufacturers like Sony now, which makes everything, of course, in electronics, or this Chinese camera, the Y-Cam, which is much cheaper than the GoPro. Obviously, a bit of a rip-off in terms of design, but you know, it's much, much cheaper and has a lot of the same features. So, you know, I think times will be difficult for GoPro,
absolutely.
Especially recovering from the Karma drone fail, I would say. I mean, I don't know if they even still sell it.
I think they sell it, but...
Yeah, you had some drone shots in the film. What was this shot with?
This was a DJI Mavic Pro drone. It's very nice to take on a bike trip because you can fold it, and it's a very compact size.
I also take it everywhere usually.
So great.
Yeah, so it doesn't make sense. You never tried the Karma drone, right? Yeah. I don't even, is it even still out yet? I mean, they had this recall and then they shipped it again. Okay.
I just received a mail with a big rebate.
Okay.
So whatever.
Yeah.
But I think it's still out there. But I think it's a typical example. I think you have to focus as a big company on things you can do best. And if you're a follower in a market, it's always difficult.
Yeah.
It only works with disruptive technology.
Yeah.
But if you just copy what the others are doing, focus on what you do best, the camera is fantastic.
Talking about disruptive technology, I think we should move on to the next camera, which is the Sony RX0. Well, thanks, Gunther, for being here, and thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Thank you. Bye.
The first guest in the first show.
Yeah, I feel delighted.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
So let's move on to the Sony RX0. My partner in crime, Johnnie Behiri, did a review of the Sony RX0 recently, and that is a very small camera as well, with the difference being it's not really a action camera. But let's watch the video first, and then let's talk to Johnnie live here in the studio about what he thinks about the camera.
My name is Marco Scher, and I'm a representative of a 7th generation history shoemaking producer with a very, very long tradition doing shoes, accessories, other leather goods only by hand on a worldwide, very, very, very high level. So the place where we work, it's more or less seems to be an old flat or something, or an old atelier. This is the atmosphere we keep and we love, and the rooms tell unbelievable history about all these different things happened here sometimes. And nowadays we try to keep the atmosphere of all the history in the rooms, give our customers and also our very young employees feeling of home and freedom, at least, because when you find a place where you really feel at home and where you feel very, very confident, you also have a lot of place to be creative, for example. The story why I came here was that my grandfather, with his 3 daughters, none of them really took the business over. So when the youngest daughter, which was at least the future boss, she married somebody working abroad, so she left, and then my grandfather had to take it over again. And of course he was looking on the next generation as a last hope. And I at least was the last hope. That's why even when I was quite young, about 12 or 13, he'd always invited me to give me some money for making some small sewing projects or something like this. So it was a slow coming in. Of course, when you work together in a very, very compact way of workshop situation, you spend, of course, a lot of time with this person. So it was like more than 10 hours a day. And I worked together with him over more than 22 years. And at the end of his days, and he became 92, we really got the last chance to find back the way to grandson and grandfather, which is extremely important if you have a family business where you really keep the problems under earth or something. They always will come up with the next generations or anything. So it's very important to have a good soul here at the end and no conflict, which is just still in the background somewhere. So we got the last chance, at least. Great shoes means you can really change a life, at least. When you treat your feet well, it's a different kind of life. And there are 3 huge or big elements in shoes. The first is the orthopedic element, medically and orthopedically treat feet well. The second one is handcrafting. There is no better way to produce a shoe just by your hands. You don't need any glues, you don't need plastic substances or anything. You just produce and build these shoes with just natural materials. And the third thing is when things last very long, they also tell a lot about your history, about your character. So shoes are also part of your complete personal character. In these days where everything is worldwide, everything is global, everything seems to be the same, the individual gets more and more the wish to be in any way a little bit different than the other one. It's not important that everybody's going to wear share shoes because we're very limited and we just can produce for 300 persons a year, but we are pioneers. So we develop techniques or keep techniques which are at least future also.
So that was Johnny's review of the Sony RX0. Johnny is now here with me in the studio. Hi, Johnny.
Nino, how are you? Long time no see.
So, Johnny, you tested this camera, but you tested it in a way you would test, other cameras, like bigger cameras. So you treated it as if it was, a more professional production camera.
A production camera.
So what do you think about the RX0 and how was your finding? Yeah. What was your expectation first?
So let me just explain first why did I choose to actually test it as a production camera. I've been in the launch of the GoPro 6. I played with the camera. I filmed with it, and for me this is a proper action camera. And then we saw the RX0. We saw it actually before it came to the market, and I was very impressed with the size and the idea of having a very, very small camera that you can actually throw anywhere and use it as a big camera when you're shooting with the FS5, FS7, or even with the A7S 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
But why? I mean, because of the log, or because of?
First of all.
Or why would you use this small camera?
Yeah, because when you're running, let's say, you're making an interview, and you, in theory, want to set up something quite quick, and have another angle. Theoretically, that would have been a very good tool to do it. Theoretically. Also, there are some places that we go to, and sometimes it's just there are restrictions. We can't really shoot with big cameras. Mm-hmm. So when you look at the camera and say, okay, it's robust. It has a lot of the functions that we are used to from the big Sony cameras, and it should produce a good quality picture. So in theory, it was all good. And since I saw the camera and it doesn't have a stabilization system, for example, to start with, so obviously it's not an action cam per se, I decided to test it as a production camera. Like I would use it as a BOC camera in my some of my documentary settings or setups.
But it is the angle of view is much narrower than it is on an action camera, right?
Sure, and it's good.
25 millimeters on a full frame.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's a very nice. I mean, from the technical point of view, it's a great achievement. I mean, there are no round curves or anything. It's a proper picture. It's only in HD and not in 4K. And I'll explain in a second why actually probably Sony chose to do a HD version and not a 4K version. Although if you connect it to our external monitor recorder, it will become a 4K. But that kind of defeats the whole purpose of this small camera, because I can't see how I use this something so small and for what I just described, and then attach a big recorder just for the 4K purposes. So all in all, I was expecting a good HD quality. Unfortunately, in reality, it doesn't really work. You know, it's like the picture is a bit too soft. It's not really HD. It suffers from the f4 lens. So in like indoor, you really have to bring more light. The artifacts are quite significant, especially in the dark places. And you know, there are some artifacts which are kind of okay, and there are some which are not so nice. Yeah. And in this case, it was not so nice. And it's a fixed f4 lens, which means when you go out, you really have to take care and put something in front of it. And it doesn't matter if you work in S-Log2, which is 1600 ISO, or if you use it with kind of, you know, in one of the other picture profiles, you will always need to put an ND filter in front. And in changing light conditions, it's going to be a problem.
So technically spoken, this camera is like a RX10, right?
No, it's like the RX100.
Okay, because of the 1-inch sensor.
Oh yeah, it's a 1-inch sensor. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's actually RX100 for inside, but it doesn't really matter for the sake of argument here. The thing is that with the RX100 family, you are recording internally in 4K. Yeah. And we tested it, and the quality is sufficient for the size, for the price, and for what it can do. It's really a great camera. With the RX0, it's basically the same, but because of battery life and cooling, that's right, Sony decided to do only internally, to record internally in full HD. So probably something is not so like 100% with the downsampling or something. Aliasing. So that's right, the aliasing.
So you can only record 4K externally, which means you would defeat the purpose of this having a small camera.
And that's why I even didn't try it. Yeah. Because I personally would never use it in that way, you know, and I will never use it as an action cam. I would have used it as a second or third documentary camera. Yeah. And you know, of course, there are other purposes for this camera, like on VR rigs or 360s or whatever people will do with it. Yeah, but for what I wanted, it didn't really work for me. So, but you know, it's very important because it's a beginning of something, and I really think that Sony is on something very nice here. And I'm sure that the technology will evolve, and it will let us. Maybe on the second or third generation, that will be a more matured product. So I don't want to rule it off and say, hey, it's, you know, because again, it's a technical achievement. I think only when you hold it in your hands and you see how small it is and realize what it can do or what it might do in the future, I think it's very, very nice. Another thing, and that's a very important, maybe you can show the, you know, because it's funny that we talk about the camera and we don't have it here. Maybe it's just
the graphic of the backside.
Worth saying that the camera is actually already gone back to Sony, but maybe on the graphic we can see the back of the camera. Yeah, that's it. So if you can see, there's a little plastic here, but actually you can, when you open the plastic, you can see that that's covering the input and output connectors of the camera. And this is actually very, very easy to lose. So in the minute
it's also a problem you lose. I mean, of course, the camera, by the way, is waterproof, right?
Of course.
But as soon as you open this, it's not waterproof anymore.
No, that's fine for that purpose. Of course, if you open it, you will not use it under the water. The thing is that this piece of plastic can actually, you can lose it very easy because it's very easy to detach it from the body. In the minute you lose it, you lose some of the functionality of the camera.
Okay.
So I think design-wise, that specific part shouldn't be allowed to be detached from the camera. So this is something just to be aware of when and if you buy the camera, don't lose it.
Yeah.
What else? The front is quite nice. Maybe we can show the other.
The front of the camera?
The front of the camera, because literally what you have to do is change those or open those 4 screws, and then you can change between the front of the camera of what you need. I mean, Sony has like a ND filter attachment, which is quite nice. Actually, you must have it, but it's an accessory. Or if you need it really for underwater or whatever, then you use the plastic that covers the lens.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, I think people really have to hold this camera in their hands to understand how sturdy it is. It's not like a normal camera that is made of plastic. It really feels like a block of metal.
Absolutely.
And that's very impressive, actually. It's not something I have seen in this field before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The thing is, again, because of the size, the buttons are very, very tiny, you know, and I do have small hands, but it's even very small for me. Focus is an issue because there is no autofocus in this camera, and this is something that has to be clear. In a 1-inch sensor size, it's not easy to control focus. When you switch it to photo mode, and I didn't really try the photo mode, you do have autofocus, which is a great help. In video mode, even if you let the camera do everything, like in automatic intelligent mode, it will do everything but autofocus. Yeah. So you actually have two focus settings. Both of them literally will give you the same results. From 0 to half a meter is one setting, and then to infinity. Yeah. So it is just very difficult to focus too. So if you're really on a rush and you have an interview and you need a second camera and you need to do it fast, maybe this is not the camera for you. Yeah. Yeah.
But we'll see where people use it. I mean, we've already seen people, you mentioned it, building up 360 rigs with it at IBC, right? Because, I mean, obviously one of the advantages is for these, it doesn't matter that you can externally record the 4K. You can always have the recorders somewhere else, I guess.
Yeah, the thing will be how do you control light? Because if you shoot things in changing lighting conditions, I think it's going to be quite difficult. But for those VR stuff, of course, I mean, the lens is in the middle, unlike with the GoPro, let's say. The lens is in the middle, so it's easy to align.
It's not so distorting because it's not so wide,
Yeah, but also having a middle lens, it's easy to set up.
And you mean, because here it's not in the middle of the body?
Right, that's right,
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is in a nutshell. The main debate, and when I see that I have to respond to people in YouTube or in our site, they still think it's an action camera, and I think anybody that will buy the camera to put it on his bike or will be very disappointed. Yeah, because that's not that camera is not aimed for that type of action sport, for example. Sony did present in IBC, during IBC, a small, really a tiny gimbal. This is still a mock-up thing. Maybe they will come with it in the future, and that gimbal should compensate and kind of give stabilization possibilities to the camera.
I mean, there's a lot of Chinese gimbals, I would say, on the market already for this size camera, right? I mean, kind of.
Yes, but like I'm just saying, I haven't tried any of them with that specific camera. And again, if I buy something that small and I plan to stay small, then I'm not necessarily going to use a gimbal.
Well, we saw with Gunther's video how beautiful the chest mount work, the Karma grip on the GoPro Hero 6 is amazing.
It is beautiful. Yeah. But the difference is that if you choose not to use the Karma grip, you can still use the internal stabilization system and the GoPro 6, and it's working quite well too.
But as you mentioned, you lose the H.265.
You do. Yeah. But I'm just saying, at least it's there as a possibility. And I was driving a mountain bike, and it looked quite good. Stabilization-wise, of course, picture-wise, it's inferior to the H.265.
We should compare to the optical stabilization of this camera. You know, just to compare the stabilization between the two cameras. That's maybe a review we should do. Yeah, between these two.
The list is so long.
The list is long of reviews.
Of what reviews to do. Yeah, yeah. But you're right.
Okay, thank you so much, Johnny.
Thank you very much for having me on our first ever live.
By the way, we should show actually what technical accomplishment this thing is. If you I have a camera here, so I can show you how many people are behind the scenes here, and the technology that's necessary for it. That is Wolf. Here's Bobo. There's Peter hiding back here. Here's Jakub. Oh yeah, he's waving. And here's Stefan, and we are one man short, so the wide angle is unmanned. But yeah, thanks a lot to everybody behind the scenes. You should visit www.bobo.at if you're interested in having a live setup like this, which is actually quite flexible. I mean, it looks big, but it is very movable in a car, and you can attach nice cinematography cameras. Cinema cameras to this setup and stream from everywhere to Facebook and YouTube. Please excuse our technical difficulties today because this is the first time we're doing this. We will get better with this, but as you see, it's working. Thanks, Johnny.
Thank you.
And
see you later at the office.
See you later at the office or later here. And now let's move on to another topic, and that is the viral light cable cam. So our writer Jakub Hahn has reviewed a, I would say, poor man's cable cam. You know, everybody knows the cable cam is quite a technological achievement, you know, like for concerts and stuff like that. And there's a company, who I think they are from Norway or somewhere in Scandinavia, who made a product called Viral Cam Lite, which is for everywhere. You basically put a string between two trees, have this little device on it, and put a camera on it. We'll have Jakub in the studio, but let's just watch his review video first. Da ist sogar das Ende noch dabei. Okay. So welcome back. You just saw a review of the Viral Light cable cam by Jakub Hahn, and Jakub is here in the studio with me. Hi, Jakub.
Hi, Nino.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me here.
So you took some time testing this camera. Do you think, honestly spoken, is it worth the hassle? Because a lot of the shots that I saw, you could probably do more easily with a drone, right? assuming you have the permission to fly somewhere. But do you think it's worth it?
Yeah, that's true. First of all, let's say it is quite a cheap device.
How much is it?
The guys now on Kickstarter it's around $200.
Okay.
They say that the final retail price will be $400, but now you can like back it up, and for $200 you can have it, which already speaks for itself that it's not a professional production tool. You know, it's more for hobby filmmakers or for people that do lots of sports. They can get another like perspective for their shots, and it's also for situations where you cannot fly with drone. So there is some kind of obstacle. Either it's a legal obstacle, or it can be in a forest, or you know, when it's hard to fly with drone. Yeah. So I would say for the money, it is worth. It is worth it.
So what camera did you put on it?
Well, I tried first. I put as I own this Y action cam. I put this one on the device. You know, just fixed through a screw. Then I tried my phone with a stabilizer for a few shots, and then I even managed to get my GH5 on the cable cam, which was surprisingly working.
Maybe we can have a look at the actual device, what it looks like. We have a few photos there, so you know what it is. Basically, how do you control the device?
Well, they provided kind of remote control. There's like a small black box with a dial. And with the dial you control speed and direction. It's actually quite easy and intuitive. You even have two buttons to set like stop points, because when that cable cam is going quite fast, you can actually crash into whatever you have on the end of the wire, so like a tree or something. Yeah. So you can set the end points and then.
So like with a slider where you say the end point is actually before the rope is over.
Yeah. I tested them. I need to say when I like set up the end point and I tried the full speed of you know, of the device, it actually came a little bit further, like 10 centimeters, which like you should set the end point a little bit
just to be safe. Yeah. Okay. Further. Interesting. Yeah, I think it's a valid tool if you shoot something which is repetitive. So for example, I mean, that's what they use cable cams for on broadcast TV, right? So for skiing, or, you know, some movement, or on a concert stage where it's constantly, you know, they're going back and forth between, where you can't use a crane, for example, between the audience or something like that. I think this is a very valid thing, and it would actually not block your side so much as a big crane would do, right? Yeah. So you could probably pull a rope between both ends of the stage and just run the camera in between, which might be a very, and it's very easy to set up. I mean, you try to, it's basically just tying it around, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually surprised how easy and how fast you can set it up, because they have this patented system with the wire, you know, and I think it was like 3 minutes and I was ready. You know, the wire was ready. It is vital to stretch it a lot, you know, so that the device will not like swing too much, you know. It will swing with the wind, of course, because it's just one wire device. But the more you stretch it, the better the result will be. Yeah. And yeah, as you said, you need to know where you want to film, because you cannot control the camera once it's on the cable cam, you know. It will just move in one direction.
So it doesn't have a pan tilt head, so it's basically just sticking in one direction, right? Yeah. So, okay. Yeah, that's probably the downside. A lot of people asked on Facebook when we posted the review and on our site that what happens if it, you know, is there a safety latch or something that happens if the thing jumps off the rope? Does the camera just fall down? Because that's actually also, from a legal standpoint, from an insurance standpoint for your camera, very relevant. You know, because insurance will say, well, you can only do that, and even from you might not be permitted to use it over people, of course, if it doesn't have a safety. Yeah.
Yeah, there is a safety latch, you know. It's like one big wheel in the middle, and then the two wheels on the sides, and the one big wheel has like a safety latch, so even if it completely falls off the wire, it will still keep hanging. Ah, okay, interesting. So unless the wire really unless you mount it really like somehow stupid that one side will go off, there's actually a little chance that it will fall. Okay, interesting. So you know if the Kickstarter is still running? It is still running. It's I think 7 more days. I looked today. The guys have been quite successful till now. Their first goal was $30,000, and now they raised $700,000 so far. So
So
they have a lot of production to do, actually.
okay, well, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for this, Jacob, and yeah, let's keep in touch about this product, and let's see when when they send us a production version, you want to have a look again too,
Yes, that would be
and
great.
then just to compare what happened. Yeah.
Because the pre-production model had few, like with the battery, few flaws.
Okay.
But of course, that's something they would fix in the production version.
Okay. Yeah. Very cool.
That would be cool.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And see you next time, I hope. Yeah.
Thank you.
See you. Bye. So let's move on now. Actually, I hope he hears me. We have a review lined up, like actually a talk lined up with Ollie Kensington from the UK. Ollie is one of our writers who is sitting in the UK. We have a couple of writers in the UK. Ollie is focusing, he has his production company Hero Limited, and he focuses a lot on post-production, but not only, but he's a post-production expert. And we had him review the Storyboarder app for Mac, Windows, and Linux. Let's just see if he actually, hears me now. Ollie, are you there? Let's just see if he actually hears me now. Ollie, are you there? Let's just see if he actually hears me now. Ollie, are you there? I think it's some delay to the UK, of course, but. I think it's some delay to the UK. Okay, I hear myself. I think it's some delay to the UK. Ollie, I hear myself. Where are you? Is he writing something to me? Ollie, where are you? Is he writing something to me? I have been able. Okay, wait a second. Ollie, can you say something? I have been able. Okay, wait a second. Oh, okay. You should hear me now. Ollie, can you say something? Oh, okay. You should hear me now. Ollie, can you say something? Okay, it doesn't seem to work. Oh, okay. You should hear me now. Ollie, can you say something? Okay, it doesn't seem to work. Oh, okay. Are you still muted, Ollie? Ollie, can you say something? Okay, it doesn't seem to work. Are you if we don't get this to work. Oh, there he is. Ollie.
Can you hear me?
If we don't get this to work. Oh, there he is. Ollie.
Hello.
We don't get this to work. Okay, so Ollie, there's a massive delay and I can hear myself, so I think the best would be if you just start talking and sharing your screen and just run through the Storyboarder app because for some reason I hear myself. Yeah, just tell us what you found with this app and how you like it and if it's any good for filmmakers. You found with this app.
Of course, yeah. Let me share my screen. Let me show you. I'm going to open up the app and I'll show you just a few sort of basic parts of it. It's I'll show you just a few sort of basic parts of it. It's the Storyboarder app is actually incredible. It's I don't tend to storyboard. I'm certainly not an artist. Actually, despite having a degree in fine art, I can't draw at all. But I tend to just create simple list-based cool and I've always kind of wished I could create something a little bit more illustrative. And the Storyboarder app is incredibly flexible. By creating a storyboard here, it basically gives you two opportunities. You can either create a script-based one, so it will actually integrate with scripts that come out of popular script creation apps and bring that in and formulate and essentially tabulate your storyboard based on that. If I create a blank one, I can choose aspect ratios. Now, one of the things that I know it's stupid, but one of the things I really like about the way the app's written is you can see here's a vertical HD aspect ratio, and it says at the bottom, please don't select vertical HD. We added it as a joke, which I really like. There's quite a lot of funny kind of elements of the way that they've produced this. Anyway, if I
Ollie, you still there? I think the connection just interrupted. Okay, let me just start the Skype call again. Yeah, this is definitely a premiere here. we'll solve this next time. There are some feedback issues that we're suffering from, but I hope he, you know, you can hear him better now when he picks up again, hopefully. I have heard that he's at his client's office, so he's actually not at his office. So, you know, he's just kind of hijacking some person's office internet just to be on the live show. Yeah, so I can show you the studio in the meantime. You know, you can, you know, like, what do they do on real, like, live TV when this happens? They just, you know, cut to some clip that is prepared. Yeah, like, do that again. So he's not picking up, so I don't know what's happening. I mean, if he's not picking up within the next 20 seconds, we will have to interrupt this, and yeah, we will move on to the last segment of the show. Okay, let's move on. I think this doesn't work. Sorry for that, but yeah, let's cover this the next time in a better way. So last but not least, I want to talk about our series Perspectives on Filmmaking. This is a cooperation we have done with Olympus, and a couple of months ago we were in Copenhagen with a crew of cinema5D shooters to produce a roundtable discussion about filmmaking, especially with, we were talking about small cameras and how to make small cameras work for your productions. The guests we had were very, very high profile guests from all over Europe. You know, we had different people working in different fields, a lot of documentary and feature filmmakers. We even had an Oscar Academy Award winner there, Dirk Wilutzki, who won the Academy Award for Citizen 4, the documentary about Edward Snowden. So we had a very, very high profile range of guests there. Please check it out on our website on cinema5d.com. By now, we have published all 6 episodes of that roundtable discussion, a very beautifully produced talk show. Each episode is around 10 to 15 minutes long, so it's very digestible. You can watch them on our YouTube channel or on our Facebook and on our website, of course. And just to round this first, you know, a little error-riddled first live show off, we will show you the trailer for this for this roundtable discussion. And yeah, see you next time on the next episode of Cinema5D Live. Thanks for watching. We will try to do this on a regular basis. I can't tell you when yet, but we will put the announcement on our website as soon as we know when. And yeah, thanks for watching, and enjoy the trailer for Perspectives on Filmmaking.
Passion is addictive, and if you're passionate in something, there people will catch on to that passion.
It's not supposed to be easy. You need to work hard to make something that's worth watching.
If you manage to do the film, to make the film that you really want to make, and if it's only like a few hundred people who see it, and if you reach some people and if you touch some people, that's okay. You don't need mass audiences.